Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Monday. Hope your weekend was good. Know there's a lot of fires going on out there, so you'll be safe. I know the Hills had to evacuate over there in western Colorado, and yeah, that's a scary deal. It's been smoky here for the last like week and a half, and getting tired of it. California, get your shit together. No offense to all my California listeners, as you know. But if you're still listening, you guys know how to take a joke, so I'm not that worried about you. But seriously, get your shit together, state of California. Um, it's been kind of a slow week here. We got some Mexican cattle in, and it's kind of nice to see something other than spots. So got that going for me, which is nice. And yeah, it's people are headed back to school, and shit is still crazy. So you needed a I guess current events update. Trump is still hated by the media. Orange man bad. Joe Biden still cannot complete a sentence coherently. Well, I guess I didn't hear his speech the other day at the DNC, but apparently he did okay for Joe Biden. So there we go. That is current events update. Oh, AOC got a minute to speak at the DNC, and our favorite socialist endorsed Bernie Sanders, which I kind of love, just because she said "fuck you" to the DNC. So I guess there's everybody has some redeeming qualities somewhere or another. So yeah, we other than that, current events is still crazy, and I'm sure you're aware of it. So moving on, we got some sponsors to pay for this show, and I don't know how I got them to go ahead and agree to that, but you know what? I will take it. I will run with it, and I appreciate the hell out of it. So first up, we got Stetson Ranches, the lead sponsor of the show. My good buddy Jesse and his family up there, Jay and Tina and Krista, running a multi-generational family ranch, and working on making it even more multi-generational and sustainable from an economic standpoint and a conservation standpoint. And to do that, they are diversifying, and they are trying to bring in as many revenue streams as they can in order to make this thing sustainable. So started off, they got some industrial hemp. They are what we call early adopters as far as as far as the industry goes. They are early adopters. This hemp is an incredible product. It's got a lot of uses, and I think it's going to be one of the new cash crops well, it's actually an old cash crop, but anyway, I think it's going to be a cash crop here in the near future. And Stetson ranches are getting in early and getting their foot in the door to be able to capitalize on that in the long term. They've also got some really excellent bloodlines in their Remuda. They got some just really big-bodied, big-bone, athletic, deep-chested. Just these mares are built like a tank, and they got some of the best bloodlines you'll find out there. We're talking old school foundation bloodlines and Par Bar, Two-Eyed Jack. You name it. They got some really good stock, and they're breeding back to some really top quality studs, and spitting out some just excellent colts. And then to cap it all off, the cornerstone of their outfit is their beef operation, where they're taking prime quality, guaranteed every time. F1 Black Baldy. So if you're not in the business, that is a registered Angus cow and a registered Hereford bull, making a Black Baldy calf that is going to grade prime and is going to come to your plate for, all told, about $6.95 a pound. About the same price you're going to pay for a hamburger at the grocery store. You're getting every cut of meat that comes on that steer, and you can get packages as low as an eighth of a beef shipped to your door. One family raised it, one family fed it. You're getting the top quality feed, you're getting top quality genetics, and you're getting top quality care for that animal, and it shows through in the end product. Stetson Ranch beef. It's the best you can get, and like I said, it's a hell of a deal, and you get to know the folks that bring your food to you, and it's a wonderful thing. So if you got any questions about any of that, shoot me a message over at Burning Daylight on Facebook, and we'll get you hooked up. Next up, we got Loma Livestock. You know George, he's the longest running sponsor of this show, the OG, and he's running the best goddamn sale barn in North America. They're in Loma, Colorado, located at 1369 12.5 Road. They got a sale coming up this Friday, and every Friday after that, going through the fall and the winter months. George is doing a lot of cool stuff technology-wise. He's getting up the live auction. It's been up for a while and it's going well. But he's working on it all the time to get multiple camera angles and make it a better experience for those who are viewing online. And if you'd like to do that, if you can't make it to the sale, because that's always the best way to experience that, is to just show up. But if you can't make it, head over to dvauction.com, click on the Loma Livestock tab, and you can watch the sale right there, and you can bid on it live. So, you got any other questions for George and Loma Livestock, give them a holler, 970-858-9988. Check out their website, lomalivestock.com, and you can find George here for the weekly cattle market raft report. Depends on what day we do it, but we do it a lot here, and I appreciate all these sponsors helping me upgrade my stuff, get all this cool equipment, and get to talk to you fine folks. It's a good thing. So appreciate it, Jesse and George and all the crew at Loma Livestock and Stetson Ranches. It's awesome honor that you guys were part of the show. So after the current events update, what we got going on today, I think it's a little more interesting. I guess I can't take away from the entertainment value of the current political climate. It is entertaining, but it's also kind of sad because this is real life. So anyhow, but this was also real life, and it was something I didn't find out till about a couple hours ago today, and pretty cool. So it's called the Sutton-Taylor Feud, and it's in DeWitt County, Texas. This was right after Civil War ended. Reconstruction is in full swing, so 1866 to 1873 is how long Reconstruction lasted in Texas. So, to put it all in perspective, Texas had just lost the Civil War. You got all the Confederate veterans coming home, and you've got the Union forces in charge, making decisions, trying to figure out the best way to integrate the South back into the Union. In the meantime, the leader of the Union at the time, Abe Lincoln, he was wanting to take a very hands-off, catch more flies with honey method to reintroducing the South. But just so happened there was a fella from the South that did not really see eye to eye with old Abe, and he shot him in the back of the head, jumped off a balcony, broke his leg, and was later hung. Maybe he got killed in the shootout. I can't remember which. But anyhow, that left Andrew Johnson in charge of, well, basically dealing with Reconstruction. And if I remember right, Johnson was a pretty pro-Southern Republican, and maybe that's not right. I can't remember. Anyhow, Reconstruction was a pretty awful period of time. It was basically martial law in the South. So you still had Union troops. The war's over. You still had Union troops stationed there, and all your politicians were basically handpicked by the Northern Republicans, and they pretty well just imposed their will upon the entirety of the South. And in Texas in particular, what we had in this particular rivalry was basically what they called carpetbaggers. So northern, somebody from the north that moved into the South after the Civil War, whether to capitalize on the economic turmoil or to rise up the political ranks, whatever the case may be. There was a lot of that going through the South, and the Southerners, the former Confederate soldiers, really took it pretty hard. Obviously, they just fought a 4-year war against sometimes their own family, and they lost, and now they're getting treated like shit in their own homeland. And so there's a lot of strife. In the meantime, Texas, it's still a frontier state, and Texas had a pretty rocky go of it since the beginning. So I believe it was 1836 is when Texas declares independence, wins independence from Mexico, and becomes just the Republic of Texas. And then a couple of years later, joins the Union as the state of Texas. A couple of years after that, secedes from the Union and joins the Confederate States of America. And a couple of years later, gets beat, rejoins the Union, and this is all in the span, so that was 36, in the span of 30 years. You're a part of Mexico, then your own, then you're part of the Union, then you break off, join the Confederacy, you lose the Confederacy, and now you're back in the Union, all in 30 years. So just a little bit less than my lifetime. I've never seen anything close to that sort of thing happening, except maybe the whole Ukraine, Crimea deal. But anyhow, it's just been a crazy couple years. Tensions are running high back in Texas. So all these soldiers are coming back home. A lot of them are ranchers, and in the meantime, the Texas Rangers were basically what was left back to fight the Indians and the bandits and whatnot. Think of Lonesome Dove. This was kind of this was Call and Gus. That was what they did, and but it was mostly at the time it was young boys and older men or whoever did not who got rejected from the draft from the Confederates. And then you get the war ends, you get all these troops coming back home, and there's a bunch of people moving back out west, not back out west, but moving out west, including a bunch of freed slaves. So if we think racial tensions are bad right now, you got a bunch of people who owned a bunch of people and fought a war over said people. Not officially. You can look at both accounts, and one will say it was all over slavery, and one will say it was all over states' rights. But they're both right. It was over the states' rights to own slaves. But and regardless of that, you had a bunch of people that owned a bunch of other people, and now had just lost those people in a war. and now you got a whole bunch of those people that you used to own are now free, and they're trying to settle and make something of their own. You got a bunch of Northerners coming in, encroaching on your territory, telling you how to live, and they're sucking up some land. So there is a ton of upheaval going on in Texas at the time, and so once Reconstruction is, and don't quote me on this exact timeline, but I couldn't find anything about it. But I believe once Reconstruction policies went into effect, that's basically when all of these union-backed politicians got into office, and they did away with the Texas Rangers, and they instead instituted the Texas State Police, which was basically the same thing but with their guys. So they had the backing basically of the Union Army, and a bunch of lackeys of the leadership in Washington. Basically letting them do whatever they want, and they pretty well terrorized Southeast Texas for a while, and a lot of it they said that was, they were trying to crack down on cattle rustling, but basically they were just harassing a bunch of these former Confederates, because a lot of the state police and the leaders were, either former or still serving in the Union Army, had an axe to grind, and probably a little bit power drunk, and so it was just not a good time. So let's set the stage for the Suttons and the Taylors. So this is very similar to the Hatfield and McCoy feud. Just happens to be in Texas. So we've got a guy named Taylor, and he is kind of the patriarch of this group. And he's the brother to a very legendary Texas Ranger named Creed Taylor. And so basically, we know Gus McCrae wasn't a real character, or a real person. He's a character in a book. But if he had been a real character, him or Call, or real people, they would one of them would have been a guy like Creed Taylor, just a legend, a legend among the Texans. So Taylor is the head of this group, and in the meantime, the state police is running around doing their thing, and they're known for some pretty heavy-handed tactics, and they end up shooting. What was that guy's name? Charlie Taylor. So Charlie Taylor gets killed when they're trying to arrest him for horse theft. And then, fast forward a couple months later, Christmas Eve, 1868, a guy named William Sutton, who is a member of the Texas State Police, shoots and kills Buck Taylor, a member of the family, and Dick Chisholm. I don't know what his relation is, but they had a disagreement over the sale price of a horse with this Will Sutton fella. And Will Sutton ends up killing them both. And, and in the meantime, you've got the state police really cracking down on this area. And then you fast forward to 1870. There's tempers are running high, obviously. There's been 3 members of this Taylor group that got killed. And people are starting to take sides. And you've got a bunch of people wanting to move in and settle there. But in the meantime, like, everybody in this county is at war with each other. And everybody new is having to pick a side, and they may not know what the hell's going on, but like it's got to that point where you got to be on one side or the other. There's no sitting the fence, and complaints are starting to get back to Austin about it. So Yeah, so 1870, in one of these state police crackdowns, which they would a lot of times, they would arrest people on some very menial, just kind of ticky-tack charges, and then never really even try them at all. They would just arrest them, and then a few miles down the road, they'd go ahead and execute them, either shoot them in the back of the head or hang them. And the guy that was in charge of the Texas State Police at the time was a guy named Jack Helm, and William Sutton was his kind of right-hand man. And so for a while, it was called the Sutton-Helm gang. But as you'll find out later, it got dropped to the Sutton, just the Sutton gang, and that's a little ways down the road. So, much like they'd been doing for a while, 1870, two fellas named Henry and William Kelly were arrested on some really ticky-tack charges. And they just happened to be son-in-laws to old Pitkin-Taylor, you know, the patriarch of the Taylor clan. And they get marched down the road about 4 or 5 miles or something like that. I don't even know how far it was, and they get executed. Just so happens that old Pitkin-Taylor's daughter, I think it was Henry Kelly's wife, she was in hiding and just happened to witness this whole thing. So it was a pretty nasty thing, and this and a bunch of other events kind of like this. Word got back to Austin, and Jack Helms is fired from the state police, but he's still a deputy sheriff in this DeWitt County, Texas, where all this is going down. So fast forward a couple years, there's been some skirmishes and stuff, some fights, but no real killings, from what I can tell. This is where shit really kicks off. So Pitkin-Taylor, who's a pretty old guy at this point, he's asleep one night, and he gets lured out of his bed into one of his fields by a bunch of these Sutton sympathizers. They got a cowbell, making him think one of his milk cows is out, and so he goes out there in the middle of the night and to round up his cow. He gets shot by a bunch of these Sutton supporters. And remember, these are state police, so they're all lackeys of these northern carpetbaggers. And it's from what I can tell, it seemed like these guys just really had a hard-on for the whole Taylor clan. But they shoot poor old Pitkin-Taylor in his field, and he survives for about 6 months, but then he dies from complications to it about 6 months later. And so now you've got Charlie Taylor killed, you got Buck Taylor killed, and you got Dick Chisholm killed, and now you got the two son-in-laws that were killed, and now you've got the patriarch of the clan that gets killed in his own field, or basically he gets shot down in his own field, dies 6 months later. And so his boy Jim Taylor is just pissed off at anything and everything, and he is going to go avenge his old man's death. So, April 1st, 1873, worst April Fool's joke of old Will Sutton's life. Will Sutton is sitting in a saloon in Cuero, Texas. Cuero, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Cuero, Texas. Will Sutton sitting at the bar, and Jim Taylor shoots through the saloon door, hits him, wounds him, but doesn't kill him. He survives. And then just so happens that these Taylors are related to, by marriage, a fella named John Wesley Hardin. If you're a connoisseur of gunfighter history, you'll know who John Wesley Hardin is. He's widely renowned as one of the deadliest pistoleros of the old West. He was kind of a deranged psychopath, very very good with a gun. He was married, or he was related to the Taylor clan by marriage. He was also a big pro-Confederate guy, much like, well, pretty well all of Texas, except for this new influx of people. But all the original Texans were very strong Southern sympathizers, obviously, because they fought a damn war. But John Wesley Hardin was one of them, and so he joins in, and him and along with Jim Taylor, they find Jack Helms. Doesn't say what day. I could never find that date. But in May of 1873, he's at a blacksmith shop, and they go ahead and shoot him down, kill him dead. And then in June, old Jim tries another time to ambush old Will Sutton, but Sutton escapes. No damage done on this go around. So twice he's evaded capture, and he's starting to get a little nervous, if you know what I mean. Well, after they go ahead and kill Jack Helms, they turn their sights onto another one of these Sutton clan guys. His name is Joe Tumlinson, and he's got kind of a little stronghold, and they lay siege to it. They go ahead and put a siege on him, but this must have been in the county next door to DeWitt County, and the sheriff comes out, talks to him, talks him down. They resolve their issues, and they get a ceasefire, peace offering, and that lasts for just a couple months, and violence erupts back again in December of 1873, and in this time, Will Sutton is really not feeling good about life, and he goes ahead and tries to escape with his wife and family, and he's on a steamship in Indianola, Texas. He's headed on his way to New Orleans, and he gets gunned down by Jim and Billy Taylor, both brothers, and right there, him and his buddy Gabriel Slaughter. I don't know what relevance he has to this, but couldn't find much on him either. But he must have been pretty high up in this whole outfit, because he was right there with Will Sutton, who's now, after Jack Helms gets killed, he's in charge. He's the head of the Texas State Police, and shit's just getting too, as Bubbles from Trailer Park would say, things were getting way too fucky for old Will Sutton, and he was heading out and headed to New Orleans, but right there on the dock, Jim and Billy Taylor, they shoot those two down right in front of their wives, and then they make their escape. But there's still a whole bunch of Sutton's crew, so at this point, Reuben, what was his? Yeah, I'll find it here in a minute. But Reuben H. Brown takes over after Sutton is killed, and in retaliation for this assassination of Will Sutton, his crew, they go ahead and retaliate, and they find three members of the Taylor crew, get them arrested for basically nothing, and it was a fake cattle rustling charge is what they got him on. These three were headed up north. They were driving a herd north to the railhead, and they pick him up for cattle rustling. It was a false cattle rustling charge, but whatever. They go ahead and lynch him, and it just It was brutal. I mean, it was brutal. Um, so anyway, 1873 when Reconstruction ended, and a bunch of pro-Confederate politicians get elected, and the Texas State Police is still there, still ran basically by the Union Army, but in the meantime, these old Confederates they get reelected, and they reinstate the Texas Rangers. And their first order of business had like a special force within the Texas Rangers, but they're just for this task. But their number one goal was to head over to DeWitt County and get shit back under control, because it is starting to look bad on a national stage. There's a lot of people that are starting to not stop in Texas to settle, and of course that means less recognition on the federal level and national level, probably less tax revenue, all that good stuff. It just doesn't look good for the state of Texas to have these fucking hillbillies in DeWitt County fighting each other over just what it basically amounted to was a bunch of pissed off Southerners getting picked on by a bunch of equally pissed off Northerners that were probably a little bit drunk on power. So anyway, all that being said, Texas Rangers are reinstated, and they have a special force that heads down to DeWitt County, tries to take things back under control, but they're not really very successful. So 1875, Billy Taylor gets arrested for the murder of old Will Sutton, and he's set to stand trial on September 16th, 1875. But they're in Indianola, Texas, which I didn't even look it up to see where it was, but must be close to the Gulf, because they get hit by this massive hurricane. It's got like 110-mile-an-hour winds. The whole town's underwater. And rather than letting these prisoners just drown in their cell, they go ahead and free them. And Billy Taylor's one of them. He gets released, and he escapes. So then, November 17th, fast forward a couple months, John Wesley Harding, he meets up with the new leader of the Sutton crew, Reuben H. Brown, and shoots and kills him at the Exchange Saloon in Cuero. And then about a month later, Jim Taylor and two of his crew members are shot and killed at a gunfight in Clinton, Texas. And Jim, being the one that was really up in arms, really kind of driving force behind the whole thing. Well, once he gets killed, the feud cools off a little bit, but next year, September 1876, September 19th to be exact, two masked men show up at the house of a fella named Dr. Philip Brassel. And they drag him out of bed, middle of the night. They drag him out of bed, and he's got his three boys there with him, and they march all four of them down the road. Now, his oldest boy happens to be a pretty well-known outlaw, and that's probably the reason for, or the reason why they stopped at this at his house. But for all intents and purposes, and all the records that I could find, this Dr. Philip Brassel was a pretty upstanding member of the community, well respected. No suspicion of any wrongdoing on his part. He was just known as a pretty good guy. And so they march these four men down the road, and they promptly execute Dr. Phillip and his oldest boy, the outlaw. The two younger boys, they were able to run away and escape into the woods. But this caused a pretty big stink because, like I said, this is an upstanding member of society, and with all this violence and everything and all this shit, people are just really kind of getting tired of it. But the same point, they both sides on either side, you've got about 200 followers of of the Sutton clan or the Taylor clan. It's basically the whole county, but there's a lot of, I'm guessing there was a lot of people kind of on the border. They picked a side because they had to, just out of sheer survival instinct. They really didn't like any of it that was going on, and I think that there was just kind of a loud uproar after that. Just like, hey, this is one of our best and brightest, and we can't be having this shit going on anymore. So Texas Rangers are called in, and they're like, the state legislature is like, shut that shit down. Care what it takes, get it done. So they end up arresting 8 different men. They go to trial, or attempt to go to trial, but the hell of it is these sides are very entrenched, and it's a lot of family involved, and nobody's saying shit because, stitches get snitches. Snitches get stitches. And, so, not that they're only able to convict one guy, doesn't say who, anywhere that I could find. I read several different articles on this, and I never could find who was convicted. But he later got pardoned, and that was kind of the official end. I don't know what you'd call it, but I guess that was when this feud finally got put to bed. The leader of one side got killed. 3 of the leaders of the other side got killed, and all told, 22 people from the Taylor crew were either lynched or shot, and about 13 of the Sutton crew were killed, and nobody really won. It was seemed to be just more of a personal issue. There was kind of a conspiracy theory floated around about this story that this feud was from way back, in like Virginia, before they moved to Texas, but there's not any sort of records or evidence to support that. But really, it was just kind of disgruntled Confederates versus asshole carpetbaggers, and when push came to shove, that fight that had just went on for 4 long years was still pretty fresh in everybody's mind, and they were not shying away from a fight, and a lot of people got killed, 30-something people, over this little feud. And whether it be, ineffective leadership from the state level or any number of things, it was a shit show. But luckily, it just seemed like everybody was just tired of all the violence. And even after the one fellow was convicted, they're just like, it's not even worth trying to have this guy serve out his sentence. So he gets pardoned, and that's the end of it. And I guess everybody breathes a sigh of relief, and they say, all right, go back home and shut the fuck up for a little bit. Stop killing each other. And there was feuds like this all over the U.S. back in those days, and especially in these kind of isolated communities where you have large families, and sometimes shit goes haywire, whether it be a deal trade gone bad or what, or one of the male family members sneaking over to visit a female member of the other clan at all hours of the night. They're just certain little things, and it was very very tribal like that, very very clan mentality, and so you had those type of feuds, and boy, they weren't fucking around when they were pissed, and they they were gonna avenge something. Boy, they got after it, and there was a pretty astonishing number of people that died when you say like this one, you got 30 something people that were killed or either shot or hung. And then I don't even know how many on the. I used to know the number on the Hatfields and McCoys, but it was a pretty large number there, and it was on both sides you've got deeply entrenched political ideologies and a lot of just leftover resentment from the Civil War, and it was just a recipe for more violence and interesting stuff. We've come a long ways as a country, I'll have to say that. There's a lot of crazy shit happening out in the bigger cities right now, but it could get worse, and it could always be worse, it seems like. So that's kind of the cool little thing about these historical episodes, is it kind of helps put stuff in perspective from time to time. And as wild and crazy and shitty as the times are right now, at least we don't have minor wars going on throughout the country, which I guess to some extent we do, but not quite like that. And so that's a good thing. But I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy looking up the information on these. It's stuff's right up my alley, so makes it fun to do some research and jot notes down to tell for a good story. So anyway, we'll keep doing that. You guys keep doing your thing. You're not subscribed to the podcast or the page or anything, please go do that. If you listen on Apple, I would appreciate it if you leave me a 5-star review. Help get the word out a little bit more, and share it on your social medias if you would. We've had some really good interaction and a lot of upward movement on how we're doing here lately. So I'd like to keep that up and I guess strike while the iron's hot. So if you would, I'd appreciate it. Share it around. Tell your friends, your family, whatever. If anybody you think would get a kick out of it, send them our way, and we'll be glad to have them. But you can find me on Facebook, Matt McKinley, at MickerMac85 on Twitter and Instagram. Podcast page is Burning Daylight on Facebook and YouTube. At Move Your Ass everywhere else. Make sure you go check out the Burning Daylight website, burning-daylight.com. We got a whole bunch of content over there. You can listen to the show. You can look through some memes. We got all sorts of good stuff. We'll be putting together a little newsletter every week as well. And hopefully we'll get some more people contributing to the site. And it'll be a cool deal once we get everything rolling and get some more people on board. I think you'll like it. So, but go check it out. We got some shirts for sale and whatnot. But more than anything, just keep tuning in and keep trying to put something good together for you. So, hope you like it. Hope you have a wonderful week, and stay safe out there and move your ass. We're burning daylight.